Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And today I have brought another fabulous guest, and a definite first. This is my first international guest, so this is an awesome thing. So, but before we get to that, please like, please subscribe, and share out the video, and please let everyone know we're here. And check out the show notes. We have all kinds of interesting things going on. So, without further ado, here's our guest for the day, Mr. Chris Malgrain. How you
Hi,
doing,
JD.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm fine. And you? Good.
I'm good. I'm good. So
Hi,
how's life?
everybody.
How's life in France?
Well, it's very sunny at the moment. It's cool, and besides being an artist, I'm also a teacher, and now I'm on vacation, so I'm enjoying full time. Very happy.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's get right into this. So, Chris, you know, I looked through some of your books. I looked through the Formidables. I looked through Citadel, and I see a heavy influence of a number of artists. But I was just wondering, like, you're doing American style comics, but I was wondering, what was the catalyst of your interest in this type of comic when you were growing up?
Oh well, it's a long story. It happened first. I knew that I was a comic book artist at the age of 5. That's
Mm.
very weird because when I was in kindergarten, I drew slightly better than my classmates, and I told everybody that I was a published comic book artist, and my classmates believed me until their parents told them that it was not possible. So after that, they hated me, for a time. Okay, I was less popular. But what is very interesting is that I've always known what I wanted to do.
Mm.
So at the age of 5, I was already a published artist in my mind. And I suppose you're aware of all those new age theories that when you already live your will manifest one. So I don't know if it's true. I've read so many interviews, from stars like Schwarzenegger, who said that when he was a kid, he practiced, he played, he was skinny, and he played being a very muscular guy.
Mm.
And so I tend to believe in that because why at the age of 5 was I sure that I was an artist? That's so strange. And so I began to read comics very early. First Disney comics, Mickey Mouse, etc. And then I think around the age of 7, 8, Italian comics, English comics also. And then I started to see American comics in newsstands, and I was intrigued by those colorful heroes. When I saw Spider-Man, Captain America, I was a bit scared. I don't know why, but I hesitated.
Mm.
I was an avid reader. I really love to read comics, and I said, okay, I try one day. And one day when I was 9, I bought my first comic. My first Marvel comic was, of course, a French adaptation. It was an anthology book containing 3 stories. There was Nova, Spider-Man, and the Silver Surfer graphic novel by Stanley and Jack Kirby. And when I saw this, I fell in love with the city of New York and with superheroes. And I was 9, and I said, okay, I know that I want to be an artist in the future, but okay, I will go to America. That's what I want to do. I want to draw superheroes. And so my American dream was born, and I got obsessed with America and with learning English. So I was to start learning English the following year at school. So I had my motivation. So when I started, I listened to the teacher. I was serious, and I started reading American comics in English when I was 11. So I wrote all the words I didn't know in a notebook, and I learned everything. And after 2 years, my teacher said that I had a level of 4 years of English because I learned everything on my own.
Mm.
So I was very happy. And then when I was 18, when I graduated, so I was too young to be a professional artist. And so I went to university to continue learning English. And then 4 years later, I became a teacher. And I continued in parallel, and at some point, I was hired by a French publisher, and so I worked with those guys for a few years, and we had one of the editors was Jean-Marc Officier. I suppose you know this guy. Yes, he worked with Mobius.
Oh, okay.
And he's worked for Marvel and DC also. And so he knew that I wanted to be published in the States. So one day he sent me an email saying that iBooks, Stephen Roman's ex company,
Right.
So iBooks was looking for artists. So I wrote them immediately. And Byron Price, the boss, said, okay, we loved your samples, and we're going to give you a story, an adaptation of Isaac Asimov novel, like I, Robot, something like this.
Right.
So I was so happy. American Dream was going to happen, And so Stephen was in contact with me because he was the editor of the project.
Right.
And I don't know what happened exactly, but things didn't happen. After 3 months, we had to cancel the project.
Okay.
And I was so sad. I said, okay, am I cursed or what? So is my American dream just a fantasy? Am I a failure? And then something extraordinary happened. 3 months later, they came back to me and they said, Chris, we have a new project for you. It's Stanley's Alexa. And you have to know that Stanley has always been my idol. And when I began teaching, so I kept reading. It was a lot of work. Before you are an established teacher and you can go back to your hobbies, it takes some time. But I kept on reading, and I really dreamt of meeting Stanley one day, because I'm a retro guy. I only like Silver Age and Bronze Age stories. And so I kept reading the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and everything, and I said, this guy is really my inspiration. I want to meet him one day. And so I met Stanley, and what is incredible is that I didn't look for him or anything. So, I didn't try to get in touch with him. It was just a chance, And if the first project, the Asimov adaptation had taken place, then I would never have met Stanley. And the funny thing is that in 2002, I went to San Diego to meet him as a fan. I don't want to get any professional contacts or anything. I said, okay, I want to cross the Atlantic and go and meet Stanley and say, I love you, sir. And I missed it. I was too late at his booth. Okay, so I crossed the ocean for nothing. So I was so sad. And 2 years later, not only did I meet him, but I worked with him.
Nice.
And signed the proof of Alexa in San Diego. So it's an amazing story. And this taught me a lesson that, present failures often pave the way for future successes. So when a catastrophe happens in the present, now I said to myself, okay, you're a disappointed man, but wait, maybe something better is coming. So it's something that I try to teach my students.
Very nice, very nice. Now, the Alexa project. Now I know you worked with Steve. Now this is Steve Roman. He's a mutual friend. I've already interviewed him before, so if anybody's interested, you can go check out his interview. But Steve's an interesting guy. So I mean, when you worked with him, I know he wrote the scripts for those stories. How did he present those scripts to you? Were they written like DC style, where it's panel for panel, or did he write it more like a Marvel style, where it's a little bit more loose, and then he would come in and script later?
No, DC style. Yeah, full script. Full script, but I made suggestions, and he accepted them, and we became friends because we met at San Diego 2004, and so he's a great guy. Really, he's very funny, and we got along very well. And so we've been now working together on my own comics for several years. And not only is he a very good guy, but he's very talented. I love his writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes.
I think that the Formidables and Calderon are better with his writing, because I write a quick script, okay, and so he corrects or he Americanizes what needs to be Americanized, because I'm a Frenchman, and and he has excellent ideas. And when I read what he sends me back, his scripts, they are wonderful. I really admire him.
No, Steve's awesome. I consider him a mentor. So
Really?
oh, yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, so let me ask you a question. When you were working on Alexa, okay, now were you submitting pages and then getting like critiques back, or maybe like change suggestions, and who were those coming from? Were they coming from Steve? Were they coming from the publisher? Were they coming from Stan Lee?
So Stanley was the editor, so I was not in direct contact with him. But I know that one day he called Byron Price. So Steve was the editor. I was most of the time in touch with him. But Byron Price sometimes wrote me, and he said one day that Stanley had just called him on the phone to say that my rendition of Alexa was wonderful. So I was so happy,
Right.
And there was nothing really to change. So they accepted my pages. So I drew the 7-page introduction to the book, and I inked about, I don't remember, maybe 15 pages of John Royle's pages. So I was present on half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. And I was so for the people who are watching and who don't know this comic, here it is. And what was funny is that, so you have the creators' names on the cover. So Stanley, Dave Gibbons, Dan Jurgens, Stephen Roman, Scott Hanna, and small little me here, Chris Malgrain. So whenever I see this cover, I still laugh. It's so funny. It's so funny. But it's a wonderful story. It's a fairy tale for me.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, let me ask you a question about your process. When you're laying out pages, right? Because you're going through the process of breaking down a script, whether it's your own or somebody else's. How do you go about that? Do you do little thumbnails? Do you blow them up? I mean, how do you break down a comic, a script when you get it?
Well, so yeah, so for my own comics, I don't write any scripts or anything. I know what's going to happen, and I rely on my inspiration. So usually I have a story idea, and when I start the story on the page, so I know where I start and where I finish. But the story writes itself. I don't know why, but ideas come as I draw. So that's how I function for myself. And so with other people's scripts, so I read them, and so I don't know what happens, but in my mind, so I visualize the number of panels, even if it's said that, okay, I need 5 panels. Okay, so I think, no, I need 6 or 4, or I'm going to do this. I visualize it in my mind, and then I take my page and so I draw several panels and I start drawing, and it just happens this way. So I have a page here, a cover I'm doing for one of my comics. So I'm not sure you're going to see anything, but it's for Fantastic Fantasy. It's my Golden Age magazine. Nice. And I don't know if you see any pencils here, but if you see, so there's Tomboy. I don't know if you know this character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the original Daredevil here. So there are just only a few lines, and then I lay out the page. So when I want to draw one of the characters, I pencil a bit further, and then I ink, and I'm pretty fast this way.
Gotcha. Okay. So you basically just rough it out in pencils and then finish in ink.
Yes.
Gotcha. My wife does the same thing. My wife's an artist.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah.
So she draws comics too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
She it's a comic we've been working on together. It's called Tall Tales. So yeah, she just does very simple pencils and then she'll go in and then finish it all in ink.
Yeah, because it's really a pain when you. I don't know how other artists can, they can draw very tight pencils. They draw every detail in pencil, and then when they ink their own work, so they do the same thing over again. So you do the same thing twice, and it's so horrible.
Yeah.
So
I've seen a number of artists complain about it.
yeah,
Yeah, they're like, no. Yeah, it's too much work.
and that's why it's difficult for me to have an inker because I cannot produce very tight pencils. I don't see the interest for that, and it's really a pain to do that. So I'm my own inker.
No, I got you. I worked with an artist where he would pencil with the darkest lead you could get, and then it was so dark it was already finished when he was done penciling. You just had to scan it, and it would come out black. Yeah, so it was just, the only thing he had to be careful with is smudging.
Yes,
because he would he had to make sure his hand was away from the paper, so it just doesn't smudge. But it was crazy because like you would see it and it was so dark it was like shiny, the pencil lead on the paper.
Yeah.
So heavy. But for him that saved him time because he said, oh yeah, now I don't have to ink it. You just scan it. There you go.
Yeah, everybody has their own technique. So
yeah.
And I'm very old-fashioned. Not only do I love old-fashioned comics, but I do everything the old-fashioned way. I don't have, I don't draw on the computer or anything. I have good old paper and an eraser and a ruler, and that's what I need.
No, that's fantastic. Now let me ask you a question because I know you. We haven't started talking about your style yet. We'll get into that in a minute. But like, how fast are you? Like, I mean, how many pages can you produce in a day?
It depends. So if it's a splash page, so that's the splash page. If there's not, a huge city or anything very big, so it can take me an hour or two. And so when I draw all day, I can draw one complete page and ink half of another. So I'm pretty fast.
Oh yeah, that's pretty fast. Yeah.
Because most people. Not so concerned. Yeah, I'm not so concerned about perfection anymore. Because what I don't like in modern comics is that they are too perfect. So yeah, the artists are very good. So the perspective is perfect, and the anatomy, everything is perfect. But it's too perfect. I think it lacks life and dynamism. So I prefer to read guys like Sal Buscema. So I'm a big fan of this guy, and of course, as an artist, I see a lot of mistakes when I read the Hulk, for example. Sometimes I'm shocked. I say, "Oh, come on, Sal! How could you draw such a short limb or anything?" But it doesn't matter because the pages have so much energy and they're so magic. So I used to be a perfectionist, and I still try to do my best. But I think that trying to be perfect is an illusion, and what people will like in your art is not the perfection, it's the passion and the dynamism and everything. So that's why now I'm faster than ever. Doesn't mean that I don't want to be good. I do my best, but I don't want to be a Michelangelo of comics or anything. So I accept the fact that I can make mistakes because everybody does. And even Neil Adams, so when I read these old Batman stories, sometimes the arms are, too long or anything. I can notice that, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the art is fantastic and doesn't have to be perfect.
No, this is true. This is very true. So now, okay, so you went from Alexa. Now, what came after Alexa?
After Alexa, so I thought that I would continue on my way to publication in the States, and so I got in contact with Bob Greenberger, who was the editor of Superman, and he gave me a tryout script.
Okay.
And so I did 5 pages, and he was satisfied. So I thought, oh, that's nice. I'm going to draw Superman for DC, And then bad luck, because he was fired he lost his position as an editor. So I had no more contacts at DC. And then I went to San Diego again, and I met Mark Carrello, and he looked at my portfolio, and he said, oh, so hey, what's your name? I'm Chris. Oh, Chris, I'm so happy to see you, because, I've seen shit all day long, every portfolio is bad, and you're the first one who is professional. I thought, wow, cool, he's gonna offer me something. But he said, you're very good, but your style is a bit too old-fashioned, too old school. And he said, I'm sorry, but, the modern tendency and modern trend is different. So he showed me pictures from DC Comics, pictures of skyscrapers, and they were, photorealistic. So when I came back to France, so for a time I tried to draw using reference and using photos of people, but after some time I said, no, it's not good. It's not what I am. I'm going to lose myself. And I heard stories about guys who could draw very well and who lost their styles and their ability to draw because they relied too much on photos. So I said, okay, no problem. So I'm not going to work for DC, and this is not a problem. I'm going to do my own comics. And in a way, so of course I would have liked to draw Superman. And my dream as a kid, when I was 9, as I told you, was to work for Marvel. But today's Marvel is not what I like. And, I'm not sure that it would be interesting for me to work for Marvel, unless they gave me a retro story. So now this, I would not hesitate. I would say, okay, give me this, and I will do it. But otherwise, drawing the modern Thor or Captain America. So I don't know if he still has his feathers, or the way they transformed him. So all those characters are not the characters I loved and I knew. So there would be no interest for me in drawing them. But if there was a retro project, I don't know if I become popular and they approach me and they have a retro project, I should be in. But otherwise, it's not. It's not a purpose for me, because I think it's more rewarding and interesting to create your own characters. So I have my own universe with the Formidables and Cybermen, and I can say that they're popular because I get very good feedback, and a lot of people say, okay, so I don't want to seem like I'm boasting or anything, but someone said to me, Chris, you do better Marvel than Marvel. And I love this. Okay, not to boost my ego or anything, but it meant that so I'm professional. Okay, so I could have been a Marvel artist in the 80s, so I was born too late.
Right.
And so my stories apparently for some people contain the same the same elements of how can I say that, of inspiration, and they inspire people. Yeah, so there's a sense of wonder, because the sense of wonder of the old Marvel is completely lost today. So everybody who knows me knows that I'm really I'm really Silver Age and Bronze Age, a Bronze Age fan, and I don't like modern comics, but I've tried. I don't say it's all bad, all modern comics are bad, because I've tried to read some Marvel comics, modern Marvel comics, but I just can't, because So there's no energy. So I don't want to criticize anybody, but it's not dynamic. It's too static, like the European comics that I read when I was a kid. I prefer the American comics because they were so dynamic and the characters jumped out of the pages. And now American comics have become just like European comics in the 70s. They're static. So it's very strange. I think it's a regression. They're no longer American. So, but I've tried to read some comics, and so there's this problem, and also the fact that the colors are too dark, and you cannot see anything. You have to make an effort to understand what's on the page, and I think it's not good. Because I once met Joe Kubert in London. He reviewed my portfolio, and he gave me a good advice. He said, a good page is something that you can look at a distance of 3 feet. And if you can make out what's on the page and you can understand what's going on, then it's a good page. And the same with a book. So if you take a comic book and so 3 feet away, if you put it 3 feet away from you, you look at it. And if it's a Sal Buscema story, a John Byrne story, you can understand, no problem. And the colors are not too complicated. You can understand what's going on, even if you don't read. You cannot read from such a distance. But if you take a modern comic, so the colors are so dark, and the storytelling is so strange sometimes, so sophisticated that you cannot see anything. So I'm all for traditional comics.
Right.
That's my cause, my crusade. And I'm not alone in this.
No.
Because I wanted to mention that so many fans of classical comics, don't like modern Marvel or DC comics. So I'm very sad, and they said there's nothing more to read. That don't search. They don't search for new creators because there are many actually. So sometimes they find me or they find another guy, and then they don't know that there are other guys. So at the moment, I have a project with several indie publishers who do the same kind of stories as me, old-fashioned stuff, which doesn't mean that we do silly stories like in the 60s, with just, it's not a copy of, because, for example, my own stories so are drawn in a classical way, but I always want to have topical subjects, society problems and everything inside the role, for example. So there's the ecological situation that is mentioned. So in the Formidables, there's homophobia, racism, and even if it takes place in the 1950s, so it's still happening at the moment. So the USA is in a very strange situation at the moment. So yes. So my comics are modern in a way. So I use thought balloons, sound effects, and so I have a John Byrne style, kind of, and so everything graphic is old, but the stories I think are modern, and so some people like them. And so I was saying that with other publishers, we're going to make an alliance and build a common site. So it's not a fusion or anything, but we're going to show people that there are actually a lot of retro comics on the market, on the indie market. So I have a paper. I'm going to mention the guys who are with me. I don't know if you know Temporal Comics. It's it's a Canadian publisher, and I worked with Temporal. So we do Heroes of the Golden Age, which is a profile book, like the old Marvel Universe book. Right. So I draw the characters and draws their powers and everything. So I'm teaming up with him, with Blue Moon Comics, who is owned by Lloyd Smith, who is famous for his blog, The Diversions of the Groovy Kind.
Okay, I think I know that one. Yeah. I think I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he publishes his own comic, and it's going to be with us. There's also Sid Comics from Darren Henry, who is a TV sitcom writer. So he's worked on Seinfeld and miniseries, and now he has his own line of comics. He's fulfilling his child's dream too, and he works on the Blue Baron with Ron Friends and Sal Buscema. And in his team, there are also Al Milgram, Jeff Schultz, and so he can afford to have very good and famous artists. We have Lenovations Press. Len Mihailovich, is the creator of Section 12, a comic that I love. We have Gallon Comics. I suppose you know Barry Gregory, who is the boss of Kablam, the printer.
Which printer?
Indie Planet. I suppose you know.
Oh, yes. Indie Planet. Yes.
He's the founder. Yes, and he's also a writer, and he works with Steven Butler, who worked for Marvel on Spider-Man, Civil Circle. And so he works on such comics as Amazing Man and The Miniature Man. And so we are teaming up with those guys, also with Atomic Pop Media. It's Christopher Mills, who's worked for several well-known publishers. And last but not least, we have with us Big Bang Comics with Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker. So our purpose is to show. So the site is being built, and when it's ready, so people will be able to see that. So each publisher has its own page, and we're going to put all the covers of each of our comics. And when you click on the cover, so you are led to its selling point, either on Indie Planet or another place, And so people are going to see that there are many covers. We have many comics. So if they're so unhappy that Marvel and DC don't publish good old stuff, like before, so they can come here and find new hope, because this is my personal crusade. I want to, because I know that old-fashioned comics have been ridiculed in the past. Okay, when you're too retro, thought balloons, how can you use thought balloons? That's too childish. I don't give a damn, I love thought balloons. I love everything. And so I want to give hope to people, and, and sometimes also some creators would like to draw in that style, but they don't dare to, because they say, I will never get published if I don't draw in a modern way. And I have this example. I don't remember the guy who was working on the Hulk, and who had an image style, and suddenly he really drew the way he wanted to draw, and it was very classical with Joe Sinnott like sort of inking. Was it? I don't remember the name of this guy.
You're not talking about Dale Keown, are you?
No, it's not. It's not him.
Okay.
I don't know if is it Tony Daniel or something? Someone else. I don't remember. I don't remember. But the guy said, "Okay, I've worked for years on the market, drawing in a style that I was asked to draw in, but I didn't like it, and so." He didn't warn anybody, but his next issue of the Hulk was drawn in a classical way. And then it was accepted, and he continued. And so it's possible now. I want a revival of this style. And I think that it's not a hopeless situation, because I think that people's tastes are cyclical. I mean that in today's society, in the Western world, the US and France or anywhere. So we have, even if there are many poor people, we have enough comfort, to indulge in our hobbies and everything. And so we are in a very individualistic society. And just because we haven't had any wars on our souls for decades, but at the moment with the COVID situation, and imagine if tomorrow the stock market collapses like in 1929 or anything, and everybody in the US or in Europe is poor. So what kind of entertainment will they want? Surely not the dark things that they've been watching or reading for years, zombie things and, murders and blood and everything. They will want things that show hope. Okay, so I think that classical comics can become a trend again. And that's my fight. On this more than anything else.
Yeah, it's a good fight.
Yeah, thank you.
So the only person that I know that draws in that style on a regular basis is probably Steve Rude. And he's probably the only one that I know that gets consistent work. Well, or when he's working, because he's a little, he's a little spotty when, because he's like one of these guys. He just does his own thing. But the thing with the word balloons doesn't make any sense to me, because now they just have exposition boxes where they have, instead of doing a word balloon, they do the little box, and in that box is what the character's thinking, and it's the same thing.
Yes,
it's just
exactly.
Yeah. And if you read a novel, right, most of the time what you're doing is you're reading exposition, which is what the characters are thinking.
Yes, of course.
Which is the equivalent of a word balloon. So it never made any sense to me for them to get rid of it.
Yeah, of course. But I think that many fans want. I don't know if deep inside they're ashamed of reading comics at the age of 40 or 50, and they want their hobby to be taken seriously. So I don't know, but it's strange. So even if thought balloons and sound effects are childish, why not? Because when I read a philosophy book, so I want to satisfy my present self. But when I read an old comic from the 60s, I want to satisfy the 9-year-old child within me. And that small child is still there. And I can tell you that I'm as enthusiastic as ever before when I read the early issues of the Fantastic Four. So they are still so awesome. So
what's funny is
changed.
Yeah. I don't think that was a thing from the fans, though. I think that was editorial, and I think it came in when Joe Quesada came in. I think he didn't like. I don't think he likes thought balloons, so he got rid of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't like this guy because I want to say bad things about people, but so it is a fact that he didn't really like comics in the first place. He said so in an interview that he despised comics before becoming a comic book artist. So, and he made a lot of underground artists work for Marvel. I think people who would have belonged in the underground comics, and that's why the styles, this Marvel styles changed so much. And so, but I might sound intolerant, I know that, but I like comics to be a certain way. I admit that. So I don't hate modern comics. So indie comics can be anything their creators want them to be. But I mean, for superheroes, superhero comics should be inspirational, educational also. But the problem is that we live in cynical times, and the superheroes that we once knew were altruistic, who had a sense of grandeur and everything. So they've lost their motivation. So now, what I loved about Wolverine in the past is that he was violent. He had violent impulses, but he tried to resist them.
Right.
So, and that situation could talk to people who had the same problem. So, but now in this nihilistic times, so Wolverine just kills and kills, and you see blood everywhere, and it's a pity. I think it's a shame because there's nothing inspirational in such a character. I remember when I was a kid, I read an interview in one of the French adaptations of Marvel Comics. There was an American kid who was blind and who was interviewed, and he said that Daredevil was a tremendous source of help for him. So he read that Daredevil in Braille. I don't know how to pronounce it, Braille or Braille.
Braille.
Braille, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the Daredevil was useful in those days because, and we could all relate to some superheroes. Peter Parker, if we were shy, and so I think that superheroes have lost this dimension, and now they, for some reason, so they are just okay. Why are they superheroes? We don't know. So they are selfish, and we don't know why they fight. And if you say that they fight to save other people, so some fans will say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. If I really had superpowers, I wouldn't save people. I would rob banks, or I would do that, or So
I recently read an X-Men run. It was an X-Force, and the one thing that really surprised me is like they don't do anything super heroic. They just fight amongst themselves over their own petty problems, and that's all the story's about. It's not about saving people. It's not about trying to make things better. It's about they have their own little internal problems and they fight amongst themselves, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's terrible.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's pretty terrible. And I'm not. How can I say that? I'm not a traditional or religious person, who says, okay, who preaches, okay, be good to your neighbor or anything. But I think superheroes are, they are a symbol. They're a symbol of the power that we have within ourselves to overcome situations. If they don't have this function, then why read them at all?
Right.
So just because they are muscular, so why want to read 22 pages of fight between two muscular guys? No, I don't want that.
Exactly.
So,
So I know the Formidables. You did a 6-issue limited series, right?
It's an 8-issue limited series.
Oh, it's 8
so issue 6 has been published. 7 is going to be out, I think, in 2 weeks. Steve is scripting it. And I'm drawing the last issue, which is going to be a 48-pager, as the final issue, and so it's double-sized issue. So I've drawn 32 pages so far, and then the series will be complete. But the characters will not disappear, so they will be over as a team, but their adventures will continue in my other Formidables magazine, which is Tales of the Formidables. So we will follow them, but individually, like in Alpha Flight. That's what I liked when I was a kid. It was a team, but they were never together.
Right.
It was always solo stories, and that was interesting.
Yeah, it was the one thing I found interesting when I was looking at your artwork. I was like, I saw a lot of John Byrne, some Jack Kirby, and a little bit of George Perez.
So George Perez, I would disagree, because I used to like him when I was a kid on Teen Titans, but he's not among my favorite artists. So, but he may have influenced me in some way. That's possible. But definitely John Byrne. So I discovered his work on X-Men when I was 10, and so now I'm almost 50. So I've been a fan for 40 years, and so I just love his art, and Kirby, of course. And so the Formidables is more Byrne-esque than Kirby-esque. But for Calderon, which is Calderon is homage to the comics, the 1970s comics of Jack Kirby. So the Eternals, and, all this cosmic stuff.
Right.
And so I wanted it to have 17 pages of art, just like in in those days, and flat colors, only flat colors, and so I love to draw space with Kirby Crackle, so I'm having a lot of fun on it. Yeah, maybe I should show the cover to the viewers.
There you go.
So this is the first issue, and this is the first issue of the Formidables. So he has the KKK symbol on this guy. So this is not a racist comic book. On the contrary, So it's a book about I love American history, all the periods. So from the War of Independence to modern times, and I'm very interested in the civil rights movement. It's fascinating, and so I wanted my comic to take place in 1959. Why not 1960? I don't know, but okay, to make a junction between the 50s and the 60s, because my favorite America is that of the 50s. So the America, I still dream of the US, of course, but that's my favorite period because of the cars. They were fantastic. They looked fantastic, and all the guys in their hats and their suits, they were so elegant, and I forgot what I was going to say. Yes. So I wanted to show that this perfect image was not exactly the perfect situation for the blacks in America. So because I have sympathy for this cause, and when everybody talks about the golden age of the US, it's the 50s, but it was not the golden age for everybody.
Right.
So I wanted to show that, and also, so there's this question of racism and homophobia in this title, because there is a gay couple in the Formidables. One is black and the other is white. Okay, so so the guy who is both black and gay, he's not lucky,
Right.
But
he's having a rough time.
Yeah, and so I have this idea because in France we're not really religious. Okay, so except we have Muslims. They are very religious, but the common people are not religious at all. And when gay marriage was voted in France, so we had surprisingly, so all the few guys that still are religious, so they protested in the streets very violently, just like in the US. So as Frenchmen, when we observed the demonstrations in America, we were always struck that you have guys with boards saying, "Faggot, you'll go to hell, you'll burn in hell. God hates homosexuals." These kind of things. It's very violent, and we never thought that it could be possible in France. And that happened. So not with the same words, but that was very hateful. And it so happens that my brother is gay. So instead of throwing stones at those guys, I decided to make a comic book. So I said, I'm going to do a comic book about intolerance, and I think it's better to use my energy through a comic book than fighting against the other guys. So it's about intolerance in general. So racism, homophobia, also atheophobia. Because in the 50s, if you were an atheist, well, you were a son of the devil once again. Right. So of course the leader of the Formidables is a scientist and is an atheist. Okay, so my characters are not typical Americans, and they have to be accepted by the population, but it's difficult because they are not typical.
No, but that's a fantastic thing. You know, you have to show them from different angles and different, you know.
Yes, and yes, and the readers, many readers have said to me that it's not too preachy, and it's still fun. So it's okay. So of course, the message is evident, but I want it to be a fun comic book. So you still have the fights, the good old fights, and everything, but there's food for thought, and I like that. So,
No, that's good. Now, Citadel, how many issues? Like, is that a limited series, or you plan to? How long you plan to take that one?
Oh, I have no idea for the moment. So I know where it will stop, but I don't know exactly how many issues. It could be a long series because it's about. So as I said, it's an homage to the late '70s comics of the King, and so especially his Marvel work like Machine Man, the Celestials,
With the
what's the
Eternals.
name? Yeah, the Eternals, and there's only an exception. It's a DC exception is Kamandi. I'm a big fan of Kamandi, and so the idea of a post-apocalyptical future came from Kamandi, and so it's the story of a guy who finds himself the sole survivor of Earth after a nuclear war, and he realizes that he's alone, and in fact he never lost people, and he even was a jerk. And for reasons that are explained in the book, he has superpowers, and now he has no choice but to venture through the universe and to find other life forms, hopefully intelligent life forms with whom he will be able to communicate. And so it's a sort of quest, and it's a quest for he's a scientist too at the beginning of the story, so he will both discover the universe and himself, and hopefully become a good guy. So I've always loved stories about inner transformations, and redemption. There's a movie I like very much, and it may be one of the movies that inspired me too. It's regarding Henry with Harrison Ford. Don't know if you know this movie.
I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
Yeah, so at the beginning he gets shot in the head by a robber as he goes to a shop, and so he loses his memory, and so he has to learn life again, and so he's a good guy after losing his memory, and little by little he realizes and he remembers that he was a complete jerk, a guy who manipulated people, who had no mercy, and his wife was about to leave him, and now his wife loves the guy that he is, even if he is a little handicapped, and it's not okay, and so he becomes a good guy. It's a transformation that I like, because I'm interested in spirituality and getting rid of your not calm. I'm not I'm not too much too far away into those things, but so getting wiser and a nicer person is something that interests me.
Yes, it's a lifelong effort trying to become the better you.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we've been at this for a little while. We're almost coming to the end, but I got a few more questions for you. All right, so we're gonna get to the. I got some weird questions I always like to ask everybody, so we'll get to those. But first, before we get to those, do me a favor. Let everybody know where they can find your work and where they can purchase the Formidables and Citadel.
Okay, so they can purchase all of my books at indieplanet.com. Okay, and so I have a few covers here. So I showed you the Formidables, Sadwell, Alexa. Yeah, there's also the Astrodome, by my friend Jim Arden,
Oh, nice.
and it's also a post-apocalyptic comic book, and I'm a big fan of his work.
Mhm.
And Jim is also my graphic designer. We're a very small team. Me, Jim, Fred Griveau, who is my letterer, and we have a colorist, a few colorists, James Mason. So we're a four-guy team, and it's very good. So I have a lot of comics. So 29 comics already. So done in 1 year and a half. So we work a lot, and I also publish the art of Chris Malgrain. There's number 5 is going to be published. So there are 64 pages. So I show my pencils, pencils and inks comparisons and everything. So behind the scenes stuff. I have this 64-page graphic novel, which is silent. There are no words, and you can construct the story yourself. But I know what I put in it, and it's a tribute to my wife. So this is my wife, and I did a comic book about her. Okay, she's the hero, and so people usually like it because there are many symbols and it talks to you in a way. So it's I recommend this one. I'm very proud of it. And so, as I said at the beginning, I also work with temporal comics. So we do this, Heroes of the Golden Age. So I draw all the characters, and Darren writes everything about the powers, the history of the characters, and everything. And I also collaborate with Yeet. Okay. Oh, all the books are falling. Excuse me.
That's it.
Oh, ouch. Okay. So Yeet is a free magazine. I don't know if you've heard of it. You have to be on Patreon to you just pay the shipping cost, and you get this comic. And Salero was published in it.
Nice.
And it's newsprint, so it really feels like a 70s comic book, and it's cool. So you can find all my comics at indieplanet.com, and I also have a website, so it's oniriccomics.com, which is in fact a library where you can read all my comics digitally for free.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so all the comics are there. You can read them for free. And if you like them very much, then you can order them at Indie Planet. So I had this idea during the COVID situation in France, where we're all stuck at home, and so I said, okay, so why should I be ambitious and try to make money in this difficult situation? So I decided that it would be free for people to have entertainment. And then now it's finished. So I don't know, in America, I think the lockdown is not finished, but
no, far from finished.
No. Yeah, far from it, I know, but it's over in France. But okay, so I want to keep it this way. So I'm not really business oriented. I want to share my work, because there are so many indie creators out there. So if you want to. If you sell your comics, so why should someone buy my comics and not another person's comics? So risk their money on my. So I think it's better to give them the stories for free, okay? But if they are like me and they prefer to read a comic book, a real printed comic book, then they order the comics at Indie Planet, and it works. It works very well. I was very surprised because I know that, contrary to France, in America, there are a lot of digital readers, right. But people read the comics, and I have more and more orders, so it's good. I'm really very happy about the situation, what I'm doing, and so long as I have fun, I'm happy. So it's something I decided when I turned 40. I said, now I don't want to work for. So I still collaborate with other people, but when I'm sure that I'm going to have fun. I'm no longer running after projects, that I don't like to draw, just because that could bring me fame or such writer, and then get to Marvel. I don't plan anything like that anymore, and I'm not sure that I would have fun drawing at Marvel. I don't want to have stress in my life, So I'm my own boss, and I draw at my own pace. So I draw a lot, but still I do things when I feel like it. So it's perfect for me. So I'm maybe becoming a bit wiser, So I hope so. But anyway, I don't want to live in stress. And I have friends who work for Marvel, and they are very tired because they're exhausted, because they have to work all the time and they don't sleep at night. And I'm not sure I would like this situation. And so you don't see your family. So I have a friend whose wife left him because he was working for an American company, not Marvel, but another one. But so what matters most to me is my wife and daughter, and so having fun on my projects. And I'm happy like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have a work-life balance. You can't just do one or the other. You got to have both.
Yeah,
be a balance.
Yes. Fortunately, my wife understands this. So I've always told her that if I had to stop drawing, even if I have her and my child, there would be something that would make me sad. So I need to have both my family and drawing. Now it's a balance, and since I'm not obsessed with recognition anymore, so my ego is a bit smaller. So it's cool, because of course that's the problem of being an artist, is that you want recognition, and you're obsessed with it.
Yes.
But yes, I don't know, as something has changed. I think I've let go of this, and it came naturally, because one day I thought, okay, I'm going to die one day, and I'm not sure that 10 years later, or 20 years or 50 years later, people will remember my work. I cannot be sure of that. And while I work on all these things, and I don't enjoy life with my loved ones, then why do I do that? So I must enjoy life too. So I don't care about posterity anymore. So now it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Now you just get to have fun.
Yeah, just fun. Fun is the key word. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're doing a comic book too, so I must. Yeah, you must show me your comic. So
yeah, I do. I do a couple. I do two. I do one called Tall Tales, and I do. I do this. This is a mini comic. I do them regular size. This is the Oswald Chronicles. So.
Oh, it looks good. Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
And where can I buy it?
Where can you?
Now it's me asking the questions.
Where can you buy it? Because normally what I do is everything I do is on Kickstarter or Indiegogo.
Okay.
So I do a lot of them. Like I just finished a Kickstarter, and then like in a couple of days I'm going to start. Probably today I'm going to start an Indiegogo. So I'm always doing that. But we'll talk afterwards. We'll set something up, and I'll send you some books.
Okay, sure. Good. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's get down to some of these weird questions I like to ask. So the first one, normally, so you're an artist. So I'll ask you this question. If you could work with any writer, living or dead, except Stan Lee, because I know that's the one you're going to pick.
Yeah.
And Steve. You can't pick Steve. You can't pick Stan Lee. So any other writer, living or dead, who would you want to work with?
Oh, it's easy. It's John Byrne, because he's also a writer.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to work on his comic that he never finished, Danger Unlimited. So I would love him to finish it, but he's not doing that. He will never finish it, unfortunately. Yeah. But if I was friends with him, I would like to draw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know the guy. I've never met him. So I met Stan Lee. So all my idols are dead now, except so Sal Buscema is still alive, and John Byrne too. But all the rest, John Buscema, Kirby, and I think they are everyone. So Joe Sinnott just died. And I was very sad because he was my favorite inker. And so now the legends are fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I will meet Byrne because he doesn't do conventions anymore, or just a little.
Yeah, he does
just
very few.
Right there. Yeah, very few. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, John Byrne. I hear various stories about him. Like some people really like him, but a lot of people say he's a little grumpy, right?
Yeah, I know.
I only have one John Byrne story, and I'm going to tell it to you. I've said it before, but I think you might appreciate it. All right. So whoa, John, you bugged out. All right, we lost John Malgrain. I'm going to wait for him so that I can tell him the story. He should be back in a minute. His internet probably just went out on him, so. Or maybe his computer died. So, there he is. All right, he's coming back in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That happens once in a while.
Yeah.
No, it happens once in a while. So, this John Byrne story happened a long time ago. So, I started self-publishing as an indie comic publisher in like 91, 92. Okay, so I've been doing it for a long time. But me and a group of friends, we went down to Pittsburgh Comic-Con, and we didn't know John Byrne was going to be there, but he was there. And one of my artists that I worked with, this guy Matt Lunsford, he's a huge John Byrne fan, and he had just finished the second issue of the comic that we were working on together called Dreamweavers. And him and the guy who drove us there, Donnie, who is also a huge John Byrne fan, they go to John Byrne, and he brings John Byrne his comic book, and he says, "Mr. Byrne, this is for you. I just recently drew this. I just wanted you to have this." So John Byrne looks at it, flips through it, he says, "Oh, this is really nice." He was very complimentary to him, and he asked him to sign it. And my friend signed it to him and gave it to him. And then John looked at them and he says, "You don't have anything for me to sign?" And they were like, "No, we didn't know you. We didn't even know you were going to be here." So they said, "We just drove in." And he was like, "Okay, don't worry about it." So he reaches underneath his table and he pulls out, he says, "Oh, a dealer just gave me a case of these." And he pulls out 2 comics. And it was his first issue of his run on Fantastic Four. I think it had a Diablo on the cover, and it was with the Fantastic Four, the upside down with the candles, right? And he signed it for them, and he gave it to them. And I have never seen 2 men come back to the table floating. They were like clouds. They floated back. They were so happy. Like,
yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
So John Byrne is not a bad guy. After all.
That's what I tell everyone. I said, listen, yeah, he has his moments, but he has both ways. He has good and he has bad. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to tell everybody that story about John Byrne because I'm trying to dispel this thing that he's just grumpy. He's not always grumpy. So
yeah, sure. So it's open grumpy on his forum, but his forum is not real life. So
exactly.
I cannot make an opinion. Yeah.
Right.
So, but if I meet him one day, I will decide if he's a good guy or not.
Right.
But
so
he should be a good guy.
Yeah. He's okay, that guy. Now for my second question. Now let's say if the big companies for some reason called you and they said, "Chris, pick any character." Right, from any company. It doesn't have to be just Marvel or DC. It can be any company. Who would you want to? Who would you want to draw?
I think the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Have been my favorites for so many years. Yeah, I think that would be it. Yeah.
Okay.
When I was younger, I would have said X-Men. Because of the Byrne X-Men and my nostalgia for it, but I think I prefer his Fantastic Four to his X-Men now.
Right.
So, And at the moment, it's funny because I read less Byrne stuff and a lot of Salvius. I don't know why, but I buy his Marvel Masterworks, so on the Hulk and Captain America,
Right.
and I really enjoyed them. I think the Hulk would be fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Hulk maybe also. Yeah,
Okay.
if he was still the real Hulk, because now apparently he's immortal or.
Oh yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
So one day is red, one day is green, one day is I don't know any colors. Now he's immortal, so I've lost track of that. So I don't know.
I'm sure it'd be purple and blue, so they're coming up for sure. All right, so now this last set of questions I got. There's just a few of them, 5 or 6 of them I asked. Now these are just like comparative questions, so it's a little weird, right? So I'll go real slow, and we'll work our way into the hard ones. Like it's a comparative. So Captain America or Batman?
Captain America.
Okay. Godzilla or Gamera?
Gamera.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Now why Gamera?
Yeah. Well, because I dislike Godzilla. I've never been interested in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Stan Lee or Jack Kirby?
Jack Kirby.
Why?
Because when I was younger and I dreamed about Stan Lee, so there was not the internet yet, and I did not know exactly what his contribution to his comics was. So when I learned, for example, that Steve Ditko plotted all the Spider-Man issues and Stan only scripted them without giving him a basic idea before, so my vision of Stan changed. So I still think he was a fantastic editor and scripter, but he's not the writer. He was not the writer that everything thinks he was. So I'd go with Kirby. Even if Kirby's dialogue is not so strong as Lee's, of course. So together they were perfect.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, but Jack Kirby was the king.
Yeah, sure.
Chris Claremont or Marv Wolfman?
Oh, Chris Claremont, because of the X-Men, of course, and also for his Marvel team-up work. I really enjoyed all the Spidey stories written by him.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed those too. I like those Red Sonja with John Byrne.
Yeah, Red Sonja, yeah. Very nice, very sexy.
Yes. Oh, that's it. Hellboy or Spawn?
I dislike Spawn. Not the character himself, but his enemy, the clown, the blue
Violator.
clown, a Violator. So I've always hated clowns. So I would okay. I think Hellboy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not a Hellboy fan. Not really. I don't think I've read many issues of Hellboy. So I like the style, but I'm not into demons, and this sort of things. So, and really the Violator, no, it's not for me.
I get it. Let's see. Oh yeah. I'm all confused. Oh, here it is. The Fifth Element or Stargate?
Oh. I haven't seen Stargate. I haven't watched it in so many years. I don't know. So the Fifth Element is funny. So I like it. It's weird.
Yes.
I think it's not perfect. It's pretty weird. And so that Luc Besson, the film director, is French. He's a Frenchman,
Yes.
and his universe is very weird. So I don't really. So I respect the guy and I support him because he has a unique vision.
Yes.
But his films are very weird. My favorite is Valerian, which was out a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so critics said that it was bad, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
But I like the film element. Yeah.
okay. No, I'm a huge Luc Besson fan. I love his work.
Mhm.
I think the only problem with Valerian, because I like the movie, I just think the interaction between those two characters, I think people found it hard to really sympathize for them as a couple.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Because I saw, I only read one of the band dessinée with the
Mhm.
characters, and I saw, and I have the they did like an animated series,
Mhm.
and in that one, that's where you can see that relationship is just like it's in the movie. It's very
Ah,
confrontational, and I think,
okay.
yeah, I think for Americans especially, I think like they don't like this type of character. You know what I mean? Especially when you're in a
Yeah, yeah.
movie, they don't like this type of dynamic in a story because it's too
Mhm.
difficult. Sometimes you'll see it in TV shows where it's spread out over a period of time, and you can see
Mhm.
the two characters grow into that relationship where you can tell they love each other, but they just, they have a hard time expressing it. And I think that's why in a short format like a movie, maybe just wasn't enough time to really express that. And I think that's ultimately the problem. But the movie was beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So,
Yes, yes.
mhm.
Mm.
So yeah. Um, let's see. All right, we'll do one more, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay.
Um, that's I hate asking this question. Kirby or Buscema?
Uh, Kirby.
Okay.
Kirby. Even though when I started reading comics, so I preferred John Buscema for some time,
Mhm.
and but I never disliked Jack Kirby because many people say that they used to not to like Jack Kirby, and they they got to like him
Right later.
as time passed.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I always liked his style, even though it was very strange. But Buscema's lines were so perfect, and
Hmm.
his women were so sexy.
Yes.
So I preferred him for a while, but then I said no. Jack Kirby is better. So his anatomy is not so strong, it's not so good, but
Hmm.
uh, all the crackle and all the machines and the wild imagination is stronger than everything.
Right.
Mm,
No, no,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was the same way. Growing up when I was young, I preferred Buscema, but I got to appreciate Jack Kirby much later.
Hmm.
As I got older, I appreciated his work more, especially once I saw his pencils. When I started seeing the pencil drawings as opposed to inks, you could just tell
Yeah.
it's like very beautiful. It's just like, wow, that's incredible looking stuff. So yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm. But yeah. So okay, so Chris, we made it. We made it to the end.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Right?
very much for
Thank you.
inviting me. That was cool.
You're welcome.
So it's
Now,
my first international interview,
now
and thank you very much.
you're welcome. Now, one more time, let everybody know where they can find your work and they can buy
So
Formidables and Citadel.
So indieplanet.com is the
Mhm.
place where you can buy all my comics, and you can see three pages are shown for every comic, so you
Mhm.
can see what the interiors look like. And if you want to read my comics for free, then go to onaricomics.com, and you can follow me on Facebook, and you will get those links, no problem.
All right. Cool. So, again,
Okay,
thank you so much, everybody. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll be talking to you all soon. And you guys have a great day.
thank you everybody. Goodbye. Thank you,
Goodbye.
JD.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Well, hold on.